Is it true that your purpose and prosperity are divinely linked? And if so, why are so many of us not experiencing that wealth with the thing that we love? Or conversely, not experiencing our purpose at all? Prema, Lee, Gurreri, and I peel apart a host of limiting beliefs around wealth, money, and how you can focus your life on allowing your purpose to finally come through, fully supported. Prema Lee is a Vedic astrologer, my friend, and a consciousness coach. And that's just the tip of what she does and is. She is the creator of a sacred wealth code. And she and I are going to shake up your expectations around having, receiving, and really cultivating wealth and true soul nurturing prosperity in your life. Her website is solutionary.com. And come join me now as Prema and I figure out what's stopping us. Hi, I'm Summer McStravick with flowdreaming.com, and welcome to this series, Scarcity Thinking Sucks, So Do Limiting Beliefs. So let's dissolve your limited thinking, dump those scarcity thoughts, own your power, and get you back on your feet, reaching for the stars. Over the course of these episodes, you'll hear from some really brilliant minds about ways they pinpoint and blow up limiting beliefs in their specific areas of expertise. So come with me on a journey into your mind and heart, and let's see what we can find in these very enlightening conversations. Hi, Prema. So happy to have you here.
Hi, Summer. I'm thrilled to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I like to just dive right in. I've already told people a little bit about you, but I would like you to share, just start with sharing what you actually do. How do you actually help people? And then we'll dive into where you see the scarcity, where you see the limiting beliefs, because that's our theme today.
Juicy subject, and I'm so excited actually about diving in on that with you. So I am a Vedic astrologer and a consciousness coach, and I use that in my gifts of intuition to really guide and teach. And I really emphasize the word guide because I think that it's really nice to have a little light that's held out in front of you because everybody really does know. But if we have somebody who can just give us a little extra light, sometimes we can see what we can't see. But I'm super passionate about working with conscious women visionaries. We have a paradigm shift going on, and we have a lot to do. And it's really the time. And I really feel so passionate about supporting women and getting out there and really helping them to activate their divine gifts and align with your sacred wealth code, which is part of my body of work, so they can unlock their soul blueprint for purpose and prosperity. And there is this incredible place within everybody's soul blueprint that purpose and prosperity are connected, but in a very unique way, very personal way for each and every one of us.
Oh, I like that. And that leads me, I think, to my first question about scarcity thinking or lack thinking or whatever you want to call it. You guys, we all know it's limited beliefs. They're all the same words, but basically meaning the same thing. When people think about purpose and prosperity, they often think they're at odds, that you can have one or you can have the other, but you can't have both. And when you say you can uniquely have both, even another roadblock comes up with us, which is, but I'm not creative. I don't know what my unique thing is. How do you know it's unique? How you're telling me I'm special? What do you mean? No, this is why I can't move forward, and I just stay in my head about it all the time. Like, do you encounter that? Is that something you see in people? Okay. Let's start with that one then. And then let's deconstruct the crap out of it.
Let's do it. Let's untie that knot and tease it apart. So there's two parts to that. So let's start with the purpose and prosperity piece. And I actually, with that, Vedic astrology is a science and then it's an art. So it's a science. It comes from the Vedas. It's 6,000 years old. It's been practiced for that long. It is, I use it as a way for people to understand themselves better, connect with their soul blueprint. I don't use it for prediction. I use it for, because I think prediction robs people of choice, but for people to understand what the celestial weather is so that they can make good use of that. And also know when they are going through a real crap time that how long it's going to last so they don't give up on stuff. It's really useful information to have. So within that, there is a scientific principle for wealth and purpose. And it's literally where your purpose and prosperity planets intersect, or I won't geek out on you guys, but they come together in certain ways. And in that, I find that that's where people's highest value gifts are. You're literally, the way the whole soul blueprint is wired up is that wealth follows purpose. So wealth, my definition, is everything you need to acquire to fulfill your purpose. We just translate that into money in our culture because it's a common currency of exchange. But that's relationships, it's knowledge, it's resources. We just get jammed up around the money word. So
Yeah.
I see it as a real scientific
The
principle.
what? The M word?
The M word.
The M word?
I did. And I think purpose falls in that category based on what you just said into that scarcity place because we relate that kind of like, oh, if you're spiritual, you have to be broke. It's kind of in that category of beliefs.
God, when is that going to go away? I've heard that my whole life, and I'm like, the last decade or two, that's starting to wash away, but it's still there. It's still there. It's just deeper down.
It's
like maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't. I won't go to heaven if I make all that money.
But you know, these, you know, I'm sure you've been talking about in this amazing event you're holding, that, you know, these cultural beliefs, they seep into the cracks when we're not looking, and it starts very young in life. So that's the purpose and prosperity piece. I actually see it, they go together. Like when you are actually truly on purpose, and your gifts are your sacred wealth code, and that's part of the key to that, you can't help but attract wealth. But the thing is we do in our own unique way, which leads into the second part of your question. And in your own unique way, actually, everyone has a unique wiring around wealth. Everyone has a unique way. Okay, so what wealth is to you and wealth is to me, and everyone listening in, is probably similar in some ways and very different in some ways. Wealth might be having enough money in the bank to send your kid through college and feel super comfy in your daily expenses. For some people, I very well know a millionaire, multimillionaire, and he doesn't feel wealthy on a day his stocks aren't doing well. So it's a really diverse on how we feel wealth and feel prosperous. And literally the way you're wired up, what you want, what's important to you, and what you have your gifts, that combination of things, it's so unique and authentic to you, but that really is your wealth code. And unfortunately, most people are trying to fulfill a culturally programmed wealth code that they have no chance of fulfilling ever.
Right. So we have to shift it. And
we do.
There was another question that popped up. I'm just going to keep lobbing them at you, I think, because...
Fire away, baby.
All right, I will. You know I will. I also see limited ideas, old scripts running, when people say, but I know my purpose. I've been doing my purpose for 10 years. I just can't make a dang bit of money off of it. It doesn't seem to ever grow or flourish or give me wealth really in any other form except to light up my own heart. Okay, it gives me that kind of wealth. And so it's like there's that disconnect. What do you do in that case?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to just tell you all a very short story because I have such personal experience with this. So 15 years ago, I had a yoga and healing art center. In my book, I tell the story of that. So I'll go into the very short version here. This was a world-class yoga center. I had a very high overhead. It was a 6-figure in sales business. I wasn't taking much home. I knew I was on purpose. I had this center for 5 years. I was doing Vedic astrology, other thing. I trained teachers. I had my own system. I had healing practitioners. This was a center ahead of its time and a big deal. The overhead was killing me, and I was doing way too much of the business, way too much of the business. Yeah. I knew I was on purpose, but I was trying to figure out why aren't I prosperous? This is actually where the Sacred Wealth Code was born from. Okay. Because I was stuck in what I call the shadow side, or we could say scarcity beliefs or thinking. I was stuck in the shadow side of my gifts, the shadow side of my wealth code. I was animating just enough, I want to say more, but just enough of a part of myself that can be the one who works really hard, who's independent, who does it all on her own. It's really the shadow side of the organizer. And that is not part of my wealth code. And I can step into that energy. This is why you need to know what your divine gifts are that are meant for purpose and prosperity. This was the one that's meant to work me to death. So because I was using too much of that, it was canceling out some of the other good things I'm doing. And I know And so eventually I had to let go of the center, which was a total dark night of the soul, but was a total gift
Yeah.
in the end. So much was
Yeah.
born from it. I wouldn't be where I was today. And the Sacred Wealth Code was born from that too.
Mm.
So if you feel like you're on purpose and you're going, where's the money? Where I'm on purpose, I guarantee you, you're not. You have to be at least 75 to 80%. And you're not there. So you may be there 100% some of the time, but you're canceling it out other times because you're in the scarcity thinking and the limiting beliefs, and they cancel out your goodness. So that's where you have to look underneath and find out
Mhm.
what are those faucets you have turned on that are leaking your energy out, so that it's costing you more than
Mhm.
what you can actually ask the universe to reciprocate in this other area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, completely. It also puts me in mind of something I hear a lot, which is no matter how much I make, I'm just making ends meet. And I'm like, well, yeah, I make 50,000, I am just making ends meet. I make 100,000, I am just making ends meet. And it's not that they're going out and buying lavish cars and doing stuff. It's just like there's this thing that says, okay, even though you're making more, you can't really enjoy that thing that you're making. You're not really allowed to have it, even though you're doing it. So we're going to make sure enough stuff happens to pull that money right back out again, or pull the not even money, but the fruits of your labors right back out again. And I also see that as a belief that pops up a lot with people, one that they don't know that they have, and they wouldn't even say they believe in it, frankly, but it's something that is familiar and comfortable. And sometimes I think that is how these things even pop up. Like, what are you
Well,
comfortable with? What are you
that I think
familiar with?
that's a great thing to ask everybody right now. What are
Mm.
you comfortable? And I don't mean like, oh, I'm so luxuriating and comfortable in
No,
this. I mean,
I know.
like,
That's not
no,
what I
you
mean.
have the old sweats on with the holes in them, and it feels familiar, and you're
No.
comfortable, but you're not feeling sparkly about it a bit. So what's
Uh-huh.
so true about, I mean, everything you said was so true and brilliant.
Yeah.
But like you said, where ends meet. So when you have that belief that I can only create what I'm always going to make what ends meet. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if you have 5 million or you have 5,000. That belief has nothing to do with the number. It has to do with the energy and how you're going to reciprocate with that energy. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, precisely.
that has to be that. And I think that's such a big one. And if you look at culture, like if you look culturally, and I'm sure you have, at where that belief so permeated the culture. I mean, you go back Depression era and such, and just like making ends meet was actually being wealthy at a certain time for certain people.
Yeah,
And and so these things
yeah,
live on unless
yeah,
we
yeah.
break them up. Yeah.
Another one that just popped up as well, speaking of depression era, the comfort of making a lot of money and then not having money at all, and then making a lot of money and then not have the feast or famine. And I always ask my clients, I'm like, did you grow up like that? Like, were your parents entrepreneurs or realtors or, or actors? Did that become the way that you saw, things happen? The minute you get money, there's gonna be a famine coming up. So you kind of emotionally are preparing yourself for it, which voila, then allows it to actually happen. Do you see that?
Totally. And it's similar to, let's, like in the relationship world, it's similar to, let's fight and make up sex, and because the
You're right.
humans
Right.
like the drama of life. And I have to
Mhm.
say, there's a sense on the feminine that the feminine likes the drama of life too. And so that, okay, we all think that, like, oh gosh, if we just had what our wealth dream really was, everything would be so great. But that whole cliche, it's about the journey, it actually is about the journey. That's why we like to
Yeah.
watch so many shows, and the drama that you're talking about. Like, how do we know what's a high, how do we know what's a low? We've got, and sometimes those extremes are how some people know that life is actually happening.
Yeah. Mhm.
But
So
but that roller coaster gets a bit of a wild ride. Yeah.
yeah, and
Exhausting.
it gets more and more boring the older you get, frankly. I gotta say that. I mean,
That's a
when you're 25, you're
very
like,
good
okay,
about
but by
roller
the time you're
coasters.
35 or 45 or 55, you're like, I am so over this. I just
So
want to be
right.
settled. I want to be doing what I want to be doing. My house paid off. I want a house, period.
Okay, but that
Yeah.
brings up another belief too, right there is like, okay, so I want to do what I want to be doing. And there's that belief that, okay, well, if I just get through this, or I get all of that stuff done, or I clean up all of this
Oh,
static in my
yeah.
life, then I'll finally get to
Yeah.
do what I'm here to do, whether it's your purpose or whether it's to have the love of your life or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
And that just keeps us from or this is the one I see a lot. The next step you need to take. What your purpose is. You're clear on your gifts. And okay, but I'm going to do that thing. I got that hit for that inspired action. I'm going to write that book. I'm going to
Yeah.
call that person. I'm going to set up that business or whatever it might be. When I get all this, but life is going to continue to happen, and you make more of that happen if you have the underlying fears around actually stepping out.
Right. It's always just going to happen right after the next thing.
Yeah,
And oftentimes when I talk to people, they're even projecting this into retirement. Like I've made enough to live all, but I'm still going to worry about not having enough then. And I'm like, boy, you sure don't want to be feeling like that to the very last breath you take. When do you want to work on this? And it's like, what do you mean work on this? It's just the way it is. I'm like, no, it's the way it is because that's the way that you've steered your life. But at any point
exactly.
you could actually address this and solve this. And it's like, oh, you can solve that? I'm like, yeah, most things are solvable.
Most
So
things are solvable. Most things are
how,
solvable.
and so let's go back to you. How do you solve them? Like when you're employing your tools, because we just popped off like, I don't know, 7 or 8 beliefs right there.
At least.
Let's
Yeah.
just spew them all out. And everyone's like, oh, I've got that one. I've got that one too.
Can I
Then
add one more
what?
to our pile real quick?
Oh, sure,
And then
sure. We'll just heap
I
up the
see this.
the load here.
Yeah, I see this in so many women, and some of the women that I work with. We have to work through this, and that is the fear of being seen. If I'm really
Oh,
seen for
yes.
using my
Yes.
gifts, if I'm really seen for what I'm
Yeah.
so unique at, or
Mm-hmm.
then there's it's this vulnerability because we've been hurt when we were young, because we were told we can't, or you're not good at that, or what do you think you're doing dancing, or what do you, these things
Yeah.
permeate us again. And and so literally when we start to step into our gifts, a lot of compassion. I mean, it's happened to me. I didn't come out as an intuitive till that whole thing with my yoga center. I was people's best kept secret, but it's like so vulnerable to step out. My mom, it freaked her out that I was intuitive. My mom was different than
Mm-hmm.
yours. So anyway,
My mom is like, Summer, why won't you do your psychic? Come on, come on. I'm like, Mom, I'm only 13.
so that
Yeah.
fear of being seen, I see it it has to be cleared. Okay, so clearing processes. I use a lot of clearing processes. I create a lot of clearing processes. And in my work, there's a whole part of our program vault place that we keep things that is
Yeah.
all like Russian. Pick a clearing process. There's certain that works
Mm-hmm.
for certain things very well, but it doesn't matter. Just
Yeah.
pick one.
Mm-hmm.
So the core underneath on a couple of different ones is you have to neutralize. I have a polarity process. You have to neutralize the polarity between something, being so fearful and whatever the other side of that is. Or so you have the scarcity. And so if the other side of the scarcity is abundance to you, sometimes that is those are such extremes. We have a process that we do that brings to the center. And then it's hard to feel like, oh, well, scarcity doesn't really feel much different than abundance, doesn't feel much different than scarcity. It becomes neutral. And from the neutral place, then you can write a new belief for yourself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think so. I think so. So, I'm wondering, how did you get all these techniques? Just curious.
Um, they
How'd you
were
find them?
so
Discover them?
there's some techniques like the polarity process was something that a different version of it I was introduced to by somebody else, and I didn't really like it, so I made it my own. I added what I knew about clearing processes to it to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
shift that. Most of them I have to just say that most of them have just downloaded. Like I have a chakra clearing process, and it was something that just in doing
Kind
and
of
endlessly
fell
polishing my
into.
own stained glass windows of me, that's one of my gifts has come through. I have a rewrite your story process. I know there's lots out there, but mine is a particular one that makes the most sense to me, where we go back to
Mhm.
right before something's happened, that where the trauma happened or whatever, we go right before and we actually rewrite it.
Mm.
And then also by doing so much study with brain science on,
Mhm.
where beliefs come from, how they're formed. Are
Yeah.
they actually stored somewhere that we don't even actually have a memory that you can point to? It's all
Mhm.
references. And so some of that has
Mhm.
helped me
Mhm.
create
I'm
things
just
that actually we'll get to it.
I guess I'm asking because you have an obvious abundance of solutions, and that can be something that other people are also struggling with. The idea of having an abundance of solutions, not just for you to help people with beliefs, but for anything in their
For
life. And
anything. Absolutely.
yeah, and just to go back to finding another one, there's
Yeah.
only one way this can be fixed. There's only one way this can turn out. There's only one thing. This thing has to happen. Like, why can't there be an abundance of things that
Why
could
can't there?
fix this,
And
solve
because
this, change this? Right?
right, and because I come
Mhm.
from the premise that we're all unique, and I teach my clients that I work with, or the women I'm honored to work with, that
Yeah.
you can tune in and feel what's right for you. And
Hmm.
so I don't ever want to say that this is the only system, this is the only way. And I know you come from
Yeah.
more of a premise like this with flow dreaming. And so I'm really teaching you to work with your intuition and to trust yourself underneath that.
Yeah.
So everybody is wired up different. So I've done my best to cover the bases, because I do understand the different aspects of a soul blueprint and how people are wired up, so that
Right.
everybody can find a fit.
Yeah. So tell me the kind of people that you do work with. I mean, because we all draw in a certain, I don't know how to say, type. Like it's our type. It's the people who match us in ways. When they come to you, what are they usually coming for? Like, what is the big thing that they say? I have to fix this, or I want to make this, or what? Where? Show
Yeah.
me the biggest group that
the
falls your
the,
way.
the biggest group, okay, so the overarching theme of the biggest group, they are very conscious people. They know, they're aware, but they haven't
Hmm.
closed that gap between what they know and who they're being and what they're doing through embodiment.
Hmm.
This is the final
Hmm.
frontier. Your flesh is the final frontier. It's the
Yes.
densest part of
Yes.
you. Your spirit is incredibly malleable. Your thoughts are
Mhm.
somewhat malleable. Your emotions are less, but somewhat malleable. Come down to your physical body. It's the densest form to actually move your consciousness through. So that's
Mm.
one common trait that they all have. And I do work
Mhm.
with a lot of women. I do work with some amazing men too. And the
Yeah.
women that tend to come to me are, again, they have that conscious thing going on, but a couple of things. Either they have too many gifts, like we were just talking about, and they just don't know where to focus, or
Mhm.
they've gotten the hit. Okay, I actually need to move from this career, and I need to
Right.
to start this business over here. And
Right.
they are, like, I have a client who works for the government, and she
Mhm.
is really, knows she needs to help women with betrayal, and so we've made that bridge for her, so that she can actually do that. It's taking that leap to do to step into your calling, to really, to give
Mhm.
you the self-trust, move past what's holding you back, and then also
Yeah.
give you the practical cool tools to be able to actually step into your calling.
Yeah. Because the reason most people don't step into their callings is, how could I ever make money at this? To go back to the very start of our conversation. And
Yeah.
you're there to
And you know
say,
what?
you
How many
should be
things is
making money at this, not at your dumb government job. I mean, government jobs are great, but you know what I mean? It's not the same as what she wants.
it's not the same. And the truth is that, okay, so you're an expert at this. We will, if you're creating something new, you're creating something new. It's going to come from the unknown. Everybody's afraid the unknown, but the unknown is where all the goodies are. And when you're trying
Mhm.
to create from the past, which is what we tend to do, we need to know what it's going to look like. We want to see it, actually how it's going to play out. It can only play out that way through some reference system you already have that hasn't worked for you before, probably. And so when we try to recreate the future from what the past is, we're gonna already tell ourselves how that's not going to work, because it didn't already work for us.
Right. Right. So we were right and we want to stay right.
So there we
And
go.
we
Stay
have
broke
to,
and stay right.
yeah. Yeah. But we're not going to do that anymore because
No.
we're all about coming out. So speaking of like this kind of coming out into the world again and getting past this and getting reconnected, like this is the time. This is the whole reason I'm doing this series of interviews right now, because so many people had these definitive like cutoff points in their life in the
Yes.
last year. That was
Yes.
then. I was just talking with someone actually before this. That was then. Then we had 2020, and now everything looks different. And I just realized I don't want to carry with me the old stuff that I was carrying previously. And over the last year, I had a good chance to see that stuff because I was inside all the time with me, myself, and I. So what do I do? Like, what's my next step if I'm going to really commit to saying, I want to, whatever, just be different. I want to reevaluate. I want to let go of things that aren't working. Like, what are you telling people right now? Like, you got to do this
Yeah.
right now. What are you saying?
You do have to do this. So there's the number one, you do need to know what your purpose is. And I don't like people get so hung up because everything you do has a purpose. So what's why?
Right.
Why do you even want to do that? What's the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of even moving forward? Purpose equals why. Purpose will always pull you forward. If that is not strong enough, you won't even really want to clear what's keeping you from that, because that's the next step. So knowing what your purpose is, creating a vision, and then finding out what's holding you from that and being willing to clear that. So if you're going from Seattle, I live in Seattle, to San Diego, and I know, okay, that's my purpose. I'm going to San Diego. And then, I'm going to be in the sun, and I'm going to lay on the beach. I'm going to visit summer. Okay. All these great visions about going to San Diego. And then I realized, well, okay, what's in between me and San Diego? There's a lot of turns. Well, do I even have the car to get there? And wait a second, I thought I was in Seattle, but actually I'm in Louisiana. So I can't even get there the way I thought I was going to get there, because I have to be really clear about where I am to begin with. So then we can do some diagnosing and doing some clearing from there. But when you just go from I got to clear all this, there's not going to be a big enough why to do it.
Right.
It just sounds like a lot of heavy, hard work. And then the other piece of this is like, we're in a major paradigm shift. This is not going away tomorrow. We have to stop bitching about what's going on. We have to actually step forward and do it. And the Dalai Lama said that the Western woman's going to save the world. Well, we better get going. The feminine energy here, it is the heart. It is coming together. It is creating community. And we cannot do this alone. So if you're feeling alone, you need to reach out. And Summer's giving you a great opportunity here to connect in. You have to reach out. The feminine grows that way, and we need to step up, and we can do it together.
Yeah,
I'm off my soapbox now.
I'm totally, and that the feminine thread has been kind of drifting through quite a few of these interviews. A lot of it is coming back up again. Like, we're the mothers, and we brought everybody into the house to protect them, and now we're taking them back out of the house and saying, go forth and prosper or multiply or whatever. So it is that sort of feminine divine energy. I absolutely see that happening right now with everybody. So
and I want to remind you all, as far as the feminine divine goes, the divine feminine, that is a new frontier for all of us. We're all discovering. I don't care where you are on that edge, because that hasn't been something that's really been nurtured in culture for a very, very long time, if it was ever fully nurtured. So we're all discovering that, and we need to do it together. But it is an expansive energy. It's an energy of the heart. And if you remember nothing else, like, am I coming from my heart? Am I connected to my heart with this? Okay, yeah, I'm in my divine feminine if I am, and I'm not if I'm not. And that's the truth for men. That's the truth for men as well. So there's we have a lot of work to do. And we've got a lot of brilliance.
We do.
Brilliant. So let's not sit on it. Let's get it going.
Here's another thought that just came to me, because Prema, you just make me like pop thoughts like crazy. What about people who say, I've had many purposes? Because like, I'm thinking of myself. And for a long time in my life, I had a purpose, which was to write and to publish and to craft and learn how to craft things for other, people and luminaries. And just, that was a purpose. And then the purpose grew into its almost like its next form or phase, which was, I have flow as a purpose, and even more purposes. I feel like there's another purpose for me, frankly, coming up, and I don't know what it is. Do you see purpose like as something that does shed its skin?
Purpose has a I think the core of purpose stays relatively the same once you get down to the core. Like my core purpose is to live from the inside out. And that shows up in different ways. We could say the core purpose of the work I do in the world is to help others live from the inside out. And that expresses itself in different ways. Yes, book, cards, journal, that was a whole body of work.
Yeah.
Helping people create businesses, whatever. Also I have a purpose to be, as you do, as to be a mother. I have a
Hmm.
purpose as a householder. I have a purpose as
Yeah.
a leader in feminine community. There's these different, and so purpose has different expressions at different times. Now, if I'm looking at someone's chart, I can tell the soul cycle they're in, and I can look at that, how that's going to shift and change. And we can see, we don't know what it's necessarily going to change to exactly, but we can say, oh, this is going to change now. So now you need to open up like you're doing, loosen up,
Hmm.
and be willing to whatever's kind of sifting out and make space for what's new to come in. And if you're willing to stay in tune with that on a day-to-day basis and just be tuning in and tuning in for inspired action, or moving towards what you're inspired about, and also clearing the pathway, like what is it, curling in the Olympics, all they do basically is sweep in front of the ball so it can roll forward easier. And that's what I
Yeah.
see clearing processes doing.
Hmm.
Then it'll open up. But it does express differently over time in different areas of life. Absolutely.
Fascinating. I can't believe this. We're even running long, Prema. Goodness, I just had me just down that rabbit hole. Um, Everybody who's listening to you, and hopefully the whole conversation, and like, I'm loving this. What is my purpose? What is my wealth code? I want to reach out to you, Prema. What do I do? How do I do this?
Uh,
And
so
through, yeah, through the thing that you're going to give people. That's what I'm
okay,
getting
there
at.
we go. Uh, so so
We
my
know
free
your
gift.
website, solutionary.com. I already put it in the intro, but what do you have?
We're all good. The free gift I have for you is the Sacred Wealth Code. Archetype quiz. So here's the deal about the archetype quiz. We didn't talk much about the archetypes within the Sacred Wealth Code. There's a whole body of 23 archetypes. They're based from the
Uh-huh.
planets. They were channeled, and but they are what comprises your Sacred Wealth Code. So you can take a quiz. It's really cool, and get one of your archetypes. You'll get a description about it. You get some training about it, and usually have 3 to 5 archetypes, but you'll get one of them, and you'll get some real directives on your gifts,
Mm.
on your purpose, and also on where you might be stuck in your shadow. So it's a super fun body of work to work with, and there's meditation and stuff that goes along with that. So I encourage you to get the
All right.
quiz.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. I'm sure everybody's like, yes, you guys download it. There's going to be a link. And no matter where you're seeing the, if it's on YouTube or the podcast or on the event itself, there'll be a little link. And that way you can know how to directly get this from my lovely friend, Prema Lee. Thank you so much. I love it.
Totally a pleasure to be
Great
here with you.
conversation.
Yeah, so juicy. Thank you so much, my dear. And thanks for having this great event and doing what you do.
Thank you. All right. Bye.